What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's FPL Watchlist time for Game Week 38. We are into the final week of FPL content now. Videos every single day right up until Sunday, where there's going to be, I think, 3 streams. I'm doing deadline stream, stream during the matches, and then a kind of end of season party stream. I'll probably have a few beers just to kind of say goodbye to this season, look ahead to next season as well. So lots of content to come. I'll try not to mention that on every single video, but I'm going to go through a little bit different in this one because I'm going to go through the players that I'm up for selling from my team, because there's some that I won't, and obviously this is my watch list video, so some of the players on here you'll already own and obviously won't be looking at, and then what the fixtures are that I'm targeting, and then of course the players as well. So give it a like if you enjoy it, hit subscribe if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. Okay, so really quickly, let's take a look at the team. So this is my team. Obviously, the watch list is based on my picks. So anyone you already see in this team, I'm obviously not got on the watch list because I already own them. So for example, I'm recording this to go out on Wednesday. Most of the matches won't have already been played. I know that Mane is going to be on a lot of people's transfer wishes for this week, but obviously I already own him, so I'm not worried about putting him on the watch list. The players with green ticks are the ones that I would be not necessarily definitely selling, that I would consider selling. I think triple Liverpool definitely stays. They got a lot to play for. Crystal Palace at home is a good fixture, and Leeds have obviously got a good home fixture for West Brom. They don't have anything to play for, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think Leeds are just going to absolutely go for it. First game in front of the fans in the Premier League after a long spell out, and obviously a long season without the fans there. I think that could be a big one. So none of those 6 players are being sold from my team. Realistically, I don't think there's many players that I would sell Kane for. I've got a little bit of money in the bank. So, you know, maybe Jefferson I probably couldn't sell to anyone really unless I took a hit, which I'm not against. But I don't think there's many reasons that I would sell Kane. So realistically, I'm going to oversell Martinez, the goalkeeper, potentially. But I just think, given that Ederson's only got 1 game left now, Man City have been conceding quite a few in the last few, because obviously they're switching their team around quite a bit. And Mellier's probably not going to play now. I'm probably going to keep Martinez. I'm not against selling him, which is why he's got a tick, but I'm probably going to keep him. So then it really comes down to Son, Lingard, or Dawson. Now, because Dawson's in my team, I put the tick on him. Realistically, I would bench him and I would sell Konza for 2 reasons. He's got a worse fixture and he's worth more money. So putting Dawson on the bench makes more sense. So they're the 5 players that I would at least consider. But realistically, because of the goalkeeper situation, the upside of selling a goalkeeper is so low, I'd probably go Lingard, Son, or Konza, aka bench bench Dawson instead. Let's have a quick look at the fixtures, then we'll talk about the players. Okay, so this is the fixtures for Game Week 38. Obviously, they're all on at the same time. So the ones in red are probably where I would look at potentially bringing players in from. Again, I've already got triple Liverpool that I'm not going to need anymore. I've already got triple Leeds. I've got double Spurs. And I'm certainly not looking to bring in any Leicester players. In fact, I've just sold Ian Atchis, so I've got no Leicester players left. They're not coming back. Arsenal versus Brighton, I just don't necessarily see enough upside. I know Man City scored a couple versus Brighton, but generally they're quite a good defensive team. It is Arsenal at home, so potentially Aubameyang, Lacazette, if they're all fit and ready for that game, could be options, but I don't think that's where I'm going to spend my transfer. So the one circled in red is where I'm looking at. So Chelsea versus Villa, the only slight concern I have over that is kind of, if Chelsea win that, then they get top 4. So if they're kind of 1 or 2-0 up, how much more are they going to go for it after that? They haven't been scoring a huge amount of goals since Tuchel took over either. There hasn't really been too many big scores, like 3-4 goals, maybe even more consistently. It's the kind of thing you'd expect from Man City, not necessarily from Chelsea at this moment in time. But Aston Villa defence can be quite obliging. So I haven't completely ruled out Chelsea players by any means. I think their midfielders in particular, and maybe a defender, could be decent. Man City versus Everton, you always have to back Man City. I think they could win quite heavily. There is obviously going to be some rotation, I would assume. I think for me, I'm hoping, because all the games are on at once, we will get some kind of indication on some of these team sheets. And so if I know which Man City midfielder is starting, it's definitely something that I would look at. Burnley is mostly in there for Chris Wood. I don't think I'd really touch any other Burnley players. West Ham, I've already got Lingard and Dawson, but Antonio for sure I wouldn't rule out. And then Man United versus Wolves, again, we might see a bit of rotation, but perhaps after the draw, Ollie will want to go in with a little bit of winning kind of momentum, but I don't think it's going to happen you know, I don't think we're going to see the same team that played against Fulham because it's only 3 days before the final. So Cavani's definitely not going to start. But players like Greenwood, for example, could start. Fernandes might start again. So I don't want to completely rule them out. So they're the fixtures that I'm targeting. Now let's look at the players. So we've got the Chelsea boys up first. Like I said, they're playing Aston Villa away. Pretty decent fixture. Obviously, again, at the time of recording, etc., I've not seen them play against Spurs, but they shipped 3 to Crystal Palace, and then in general their defence isn't good. The only thing that might make me change my mind a little bit is Jack Grealish. If he gets minutes against Spurs, I know he's not a defender, he's not a defensive midfielder, but he is going to help Villa attack more, hold the ball up more, progress the ball forward, etc. And that could be big against Chelsea. But I'm not completely ruling out any of their players, both defensive and in terms of attack, right? So Werner's probably not going to happen. I just don't really think I have the money to spend, and I don't think I'm going to get rid of Kane to Werner. That would be a pretty big call at a stage of the season where there is, you know, sometimes there can just be that random game that does, you know, just has a lot of goals and that random player that scores well. But I don't think Kane out is really that sensible in the grand scheme of things, but you never know. I'm not completely ruling out taking him out, so Werner could be on the cards. But more realistically, it's probably Havertz and Pulisic. Now, there's 2 things that I will cover here, which I know will be in the comments. One, Havertz was injured for the game against Leicester. Yes, he was. Tuchel did say hopefully. That basically, I think he said they don't know, so he could be back for 38. Obviously, there's then some element of risk. You know, if he's only just come back from, you know, a bit of an injury, will he play? So again, I'm banking a lot on team sheets this week. If we don't have team sheets, I'll probably have to go a little bit more sensible with my move, where for someone that I know who's starting. But I'm kind of eager to make a differential call because most of my team is covered with players I'm really happy with. Like Leeds and Liverpool is 6 players straight away that are perfectly fine. Kane's perfectly fine. That's 7. I'm not that bothered about swapping the keeper. That's 8. So I've got 3 spots to play for. And I just think, how much can I be punished in 1 week? Because I'm not going to captain these players anyway. I'm probably going to go with Salah. So I'm up for doing something a little bit different. So team sheets are going to be key. So Havertz playing that number 9 role looks good. The numbers underneath, by the way, are per 90 minutes. Their expected goal involvement, basically. So Havertz and Pulisic very close. Pulisic's someone I really like. For anyone that's followed the channel all season, you'll know that in Game Week 1, just before the Game Week 1 deadline, I swapped Son, who went on to do really, really, really well, to Pulisic. And obviously he was injured. But he's a player I like. He can be explosive on his day as well. And he's a pretty good price. Mason Mount's the other thing I wanted to cover. I've not put him on here because I think he's okay for a player you put in your side and just ticks along. You know he's going to start every week. He's on some set pieces as well. But from an explosive point of view, I just don't see it. He could do it, of course, but he's not someone I'd bet money on. So Mason Mount's not coming near my team, I don't think. And then Reece James in defence. I can't afford Chilwell. Because if I took Konza out, I'd have 5.4 to spend. So I'd have Reece James. Now, he's played right centre-back the last 2 games, but I asked on Twitter yesterday why that was happening. A lot of people replied that was just to cover Jamie Vardy, and they expect him to go back to right wing-back. There's obviously some element of risk with him as well, but this is the kind of player we're looking to bring in the last game week because Azpilicueta, I guess, could still carry on playing right wing back, and Reece James could either not be in the team or play right centre back. And obviously Hudson-Odoi's there as well. But I think it's got to be mostly first team for Chelsea because they got a week until the Champions League final. This is a must-win game because if they lose, they could still get a top 4, but it's out of their hands. You win and they're safe. So Reece James, I think there's a good chance of a clean sheet against anyone, to be honest, with Chelsea, let alone Villa. And 0.18 expected goal involvement per 90 is pretty decent for a defender. We know he's attacking. Would I prefer Chilwell? Yes, I probably would. But I can't afford him, so I've got to rethink. And I can't get to Alonso either, so I'm definitely not going back there. So, good fixture. These are the 3 I'm looking at. And yeah, I think Chelsea fixture is one of those that it could, if they get a couple of early goals and they're feeling pretty settled, they could just go for the kill. But it's all going to depend on other team sheets, I think. But yeah, like and look at Chelsea. So Man City up next, right? You've always got to cover Man City and just think about bringing their players in. And again, if this was kind of 3-4 weeks ago, would I do it? Probably not. I'd be too worried about rotation, etc. But on the last week, again, if we know who's starting, then that makes things much more different. And just look at those numbers, right? 0.53, 0.51, 0.54. These are all good numbers. You play for Man City in attack, especially one of those front 3 positions, you are bound to have good numbers because either you're a great player who's setting up loads of chances or you've got good movement to get on the end of all the chances that City create. Now, the Brighton game was interesting because Torres started, and if you looked at the rest of the Man City lineup, they were pretty much full strength. for me, that is the Champions League final lineup. Apart from Walker, I think will play instead of Cancelo. Cancelo might play left back, but I'm not sure that's a definite. I think Zinchenko and Walker could be the fullbacks. And then, obviously, De Bruyne has been playing this false nine. And like Jesus and Aguero, there's no chance they start the final for me. So De Bruyne has obviously been playing that role, but he's been injured. And Pep had already spoken about before the game how he sees Torres as someone that can play in that number 9 position. But because he came off early because of the red card, right, he was the one that was sacrificed for another defender. I do wonder now, even if he was going to be used, whether he'll just get another game. Will Pep want to see him play in that role again? And obviously, you know, in the back of my mind, let's be honest here, I've got the hat trick he scored recently in the back of my mind. But I'm looking for players around this price. I can't stretch to a Sterling. I've got no interest in Aguero, I'll be completely honest with you. So Torres is at the forefront of my mind because I think Mahrez and Foden might be benched, right? But again, if we see the team sheet and either of those two are starting, then I would happily pick one. For Jesse Lingard, I think I've got 7.3 million to spend if I want to sell him. Again, you know, people are going to ask me, should I be selling Lingard? No, it's a good fixture, but if I've got no other decent transfers to do and I can get a Man City midfielder, I'm going to go for it for 1 week. I've got the bench to cover it as well. So 7.3, I could get Torres or Foden. Or if I decided I wanted Mahrez, I could sell Son instead. Again, Son's a great option. I think Leicester's an okay fixture. But could I sell him for a Man City midfielder? I definitely think I could. So I think Everton at home is a bit better than a lot of people say it is. Man City, newly crowned Premier League champions, playing in front of their home crowd for the first time. And the last time, obviously, this season as well. Every single one of their players is great. So it's just a case, I guess it's a case of how weak will the team be, but I don't think they have a weak team, right? Even if they change the first 11, it's still going to be a pretty damn good squad. So I think realistically, just because of minutes, Torres is probably top of my list, but I'm definitely not ruling out Foden and Mahrez if I see them starting. So I've got to be honest, the rest of the picks are all just a little bit boring, right? If I'm not going to sell Kane, I'm not probably going to sell Bamford after how good he did against Southampton. Like, I really think Leeds could be one of the top scorers in Game Week 38. Then really it's finding the money for Jebison up to one of these boys in terms of Antonio or Chris Wood. So, you know, if there's an injury, obviously things change. I mean, Antonio's great. I said this last week, right? I'm recording this before he's played in Game Week 37, sorry. So there's no, recency bias or knee jerk in here. He's just a great pick. And one of the reasons I and some other people were overlooking him or not considering him is because it's just too obvious. Look at the numbers, 0.64. He's so good. Southampton at home is a great fixture. West Ham still got quite a bit to play for as well. If I needed a striker, he would definitely be top of the list, right? Because I look at other teams, like Firmino, I've already got triple Liverpool and I just don't trust him. Aguero, I'm just not convinced. The fact that he wasn't fit to play Brighton, and now they're waiting to see if he's fit to play in 38. He's going to have limited minutes, in my opinion. He's not played enough this year to warrant 10.3 million in my squad. So definitely not looking there. Lacazette will probably be too much. Chelsea, I kind of already touched on Werner. That is it. I mean, Newcastle versus Fulham, I don't really want to go there. I'm not sure it's going to be the open and high goal scoring game we think, but both teams have got nothing to play for, so maybe it will be. So Joelinton, probably not completely off the cards, but Antonio's the one. If I had to pick between him and Wood, it would be Antonio. The only reason I go Wood is if Antonio was injured. And Greenwood, I think, has got one of the best chances out of all the players that started versus Fulham to play again. Again, I'd have to see what kind of strength Solskjaer puts out. But Greenwood had a good few chances in that Fulham game. Really should have put at least one of them away. So not completely rule them out. Like, if I don't know who's definitely starting for Chelsea, who's definitely starting for City, and I know that Greenwood's playing, then he's someone I'd look at. But yeah, that's kind of my shortlist or watch list for this week. It's Chelsea mids, maybe Reece James. It's Man City mids, and then a few strikers and Greenwood. And I think that's about it, because I just don't really want to go near Arsenal for Brighton. Maybe I've got that wrong. No Fulham players. Newcastle, Joelinton. I'm not going to use a midfield transfer on like Willock or anyone like that. I'm not saying it's a bad option again, but that's not going to be my Game Week 38 transfer. West Brom, no chance. Leicester, I'm not going there. Crystal Palace, no way against Liverpool. Everton, got no interest at all against Man City. And that's pretty much it. I'm either tripled up on the rest of the teams or I just don't want them. So that's currently the shortlist. But there's a lot of thinking time before Sunday. And I think I'm not struggled, but last week my transfer wasn't quite set in stone. This transfer is not going to be set in stone until the deadline on Sunday. So who knows what I might go for. But right now, The players I've talked about today, they're the ones I'm looking at. So there we go. That is the first video of the last game week of the season done. There's still plenty more to come, as I said at the start of the video. I'm going to milk that all week. This is the last video of this, the last team selection, etc. Please do, even though it's the final week, keep hitting that like button and keep hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support this season has been amazing. Let's keep it going for the rest of the season, into the Euro 2020 content, and then into the next season of FPL. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a big one. I'm very excited about it. So yeah, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and if you haven't already checked it out, I know we're coming to the end of the season, but if you want to support me in May and then obviously through June, July, etc., then yeah, Patreon links in the description below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know who's on your transfer thoughts, your watch list ahead of Game Week 38. I'll see you again tomorrow.